As we welcome in and say Happy New Year to the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its offside sports vertical, Rob the Hockey Guy on Twitter. Rob Williams, how are you, my friend? Long time no talk.
Happy New Year, guys. Yeah, great. I missed you guys.
Missed you tons.
I'm sure you did.
Miss you oodles. Good to have you back. Hoping for a great 2025. Speaking of the Vancouver Canucks.
That's how many overtime losses they have, 2025.
Every week Rob sends us notes and he says, it feels like a disaster of the season, and yet there they are, still on the playoffs.
Now that's a good point. That was like a
please,
flammable issue.
Don't get me started. We had some heat on that issue on Monday. You're anxious to see what they look like healthy, Rob.
Yeah, I do. I'm like everyone else. It's frustrating watching them this season. It feels like just nothing is going right for them, right? Like, I think back to that Jim Rutherford clip. If everything goes right, we're a playoff team. Everything has gone wrong this year, seemingly, and yet they're a playoff team. At least they are today, as it stands right now. I do wonder, what happens when this team gets healthy. I guess the other caveat in there is, the Miller-Pettersson dynamic. We still don't really know how deep that goes. Can they coexist? They did last season. They don't seem to be able to do this season. But what if they just start getting some breaks, in terms of a little bit more injury luck? These overtime games, it's unbelievable now. I know it's not just bounces and luck for their terrible overtime streak, but it is bizarre that a team with Quinn Hughes and pick two forwards, Quinn Hughes and two forwards, and with the great goaltending that Vancouver's had, how they haven't won more overtime games. So I don't necessarily see that continuing. What does this team look like when they get a few more breaks, get a little bit more luck? I do wonder, is this team a little closer to the team that we saw last season than the one that has struggled so fiercely this year?
Well, the one thing I've been throwing out is they were pretty healthy at the start of the season, save for Demko, but they had a suitable replacement in Lankinen, and save for Dakota Joshua. We all saw holes, and we all thought, okay, don't like this, don't like that about the team. But ultimately, if we're just talking brass tacks, by November the 7th, they were 7-2-3, which is a pretty nice 12-game stretch with pretty much full health during that stretch. So as much as we want to say, yeah, but they were still crappy on D, they did get results. 7-2. The Canucks would take 7-2-3 in the next 12 games.
100%. We all see, even while healthy, that D is not good enough. I see Tyler Myers getting a lot of hate today, and it's like the poor guy should not be the number two defenseman, even with some injuries. And there's not that many. They Hronek's out, but they got Hughes, and all of a sudden now Myers is thrust into this position of having to play minutes in overtime, having to be the man on PP1. This is a spot where at this stage of his career, he should not be asked to play these minutes. So, I think the assumption all year has been are they going to, I think the assumption's been that they're going to add a defenseman to this group to help bolster them. But, I know your poll question today is kind of asking that, and yeah, I don't know what they do at this point.
Yeah, well, take on the poll, Rob. What do you think? Is this team worth adding to by the deadline?
I guess my general philosophy on this is you don't add at the deadline for a team that's not good to try to make them good, right? I think what you do is you add at the deadline where they were last year, where you go, our team's really good. I think we got a shot to win it all. Let's give ourselves an even better chance to do it. So as it stands today, would I add? No, because I think it doesn't quite feel right. But you've got 2 months before the deadline. So I think if you're starting to show promise, you start to like the way you're looking, in the weeks ahead of the deadline, I think that, I think there's more reason to say, okay, let's bolster this group. I think you can make some smaller moves, but in terms of like giving up prospects or picks for rentals, I don't think you're in that position unless you've got to prove it a little bit more, I think, before you want to really push all your chips in. Otherwise, save those bullets for next year and try to give yourself an even better shot in 2026, because you can't make those moves every single year, or the well's going to be run dry.
I hear you. I don't actually agree, but I completely understand your point. My counter would be, Rob, is your window just this year and next year anyways, the Demko contract? Or do you think maybe it's a third year, so long as Hughes is under contract? And, why not maximize these years? Because if it doesn't work, you're probably going to be remaking the team anyways. So why not take a shot in every year that you have left with these two guys on great contracts?
Well, I mean, if you sell at the deadline every year, now your window's definitely the next couple of years. I think there is a world where they can extend that window. Hughes is young, Pettersson's young. I hear you in terms of Hughes' contract's going to get more expensive, but I don't know. I just don't think you can think that way unless the team has shown more, right? So I think you've got 2 months. I know they've got the Four Nations in between, but you got 2 months to show a little bit more promise, and I think they will show more promise. And I think they'll probably be in more of a position to say, okay, our team is more like the team that we saw last season, and we just need a little bit more help. I think you try to make a move. Don't get me wrong. You try to make a move to help you, but like in terms of like those mortgaging the future moves, like my appetite for that goes way down if the team isn't showing that they can really, get it done this season.
Normally I would not parse overtime strategy, because normally I would just expect a middling team to have middling results. And if this middling team had middling results, it would be 4 to 5 points better than what it is right now, and in a far better spot in the standings. Never mind if you just flip-flop the wins and losses in overtime. My goodness, this Canucks team would be just fine, thank you very much. But it's not going well past 60 minutes, and as long as you're continuing to play 38% of your games past the 60-minute mark, you should probably have a bit more of a strategy to get the second point here. Rick Tocchet, in some people's eyes, was angry last night. In some people's eyes, was messaging to management last night about giving him just that extra person, specifically on D, to help in overtime and other spots as well. Well, what do you think they do, though, in the interim? Right? How do they get – I think they're going to go past 60 minutes often. This is that kind of a team, low-event team right now. So how do they get the second point?
Yeah, it would be nice if they dressed Eric Brandstrom. I think that would alleviate a little bit of the issue. That's it. A small note, but if they're in a situation like they were last night, where that you can just see like Tocchet does not want to take Quinn Hughes off the ice, like just playing him to bits.
Doesn't trust the trees.
Yeah, no, and we saw Vinny Desharnais get a shift in overtime recently. I think if you're at a point now if it's Myers or Desharnais and you've already played Hughes and Hughes is too tired to go, why not try 3 forwards at this point? I mean, you might as well. You're deep on forward. Just go with an attacking mindset like that, because you don't have the horses beyond Hughes right now. So to me, it's time to try that. You might as well at this point.
There's always one forward that's a good backward skater. Yeah. Back in the Sedin era, it was Burrows. They always knew that if they got into trouble on D, Burrows was the de facto guy to drop back. One or two of the guys in the forward set is going to be a notable backward skater. Put him out there.
And the other factor there is that overtime chances tend to be such grade A's anyways
Yes.
that there's not much difference from having a defenseman or a forward there in terms of trying to thwart them. Your goaltender is just going to have to make massive saves.
Did you see that turn, though, from JT Miller? I don't know if it was last night or the night before. That turn from JT Miller, he was the last man back, and he went into the backward skating position, and he's like, no, I'm going to turn forward. And it was like an aircraft carrier moving around. Like, it was not.
Hey, he's hurt. Leave him alone.
I was trying to rack my brain on like which guys I would put out in a like 3-forward set. I don't think it would be Miller, Besser, and then pick another forward. I think you need Hughes on that with those two guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Connor Garland could do it, like Kiefer Sherwood, guys of that ilk. I think, you know, if you put Pius Suter out there, I think they'd be fine. And just try that. Yeah, DeBrusque as well. Yeah, like just try that with guys that can skate. Maybe you get three guys that
potentially
can
it's boom or
and
bust. Potentially it's boom or bust. Potentially, you know, you get better scoring opportunities with 3 forwards out there, and you're a little bit more susceptible. But here's the thing: they're busting anyway, so you've got nothing to lose.
I mean, you look at that play with Myers yesterday. I mean, everyone's focusing on the 3 guys going to the corner, which is just like. Guys, I'm a former Pee Wee hockey coach, and I would have gotten mad at the Pee Wee players for 3 guys in one corner, like all drawn, like, you know, like moths to the light. Was wild. But there's also the pass he makes on the offensive chance. It bounces over DeBrusque. Like that's just, if you get a guy that can saucer that in to DeBrusque, that's a goal. But
also it's just a risky move in overtime to make a pass go in the wrong direction. You know, if this pass doesn't click, you're sending the other team the other way. It was you know, lateral passes at worst, never mind forward passes, but you pass backwards like that in through traffic, it had disaster written all over it.
Yeah. I mean, Scotty Bowman said it to us in the early days when we went to 3-on-3. Possession is king. You attended the PWHL game last night at Rogers, Rob. What do you think? What did you think?
Yeah, it was a rare, fun night at Rogers Arena, start to finish. No, it was great. It was wonderful. I mean, guys, I hadn't watched a PWHL game start to finish. I tuned in here and there just to, you know, especially in the first season last year. And I'm blown away by the way Vancouver showed up for this event. Over 19,000 people, the announced attendance. Fans were loud. They were engaged. They quite clearly, like, you know, when they're doing the player announcements, like they knew who the top players were. It wasn't just Mary Poulin. It was, you know, like all the players that were kind of played for Team Canada at the Olympics, like got definitely a louder cheer. There was tons and tons of homemade signs in the crowd. A bunch of them asking, you know, for Vancouver to get an expansion team. You know, the amount of like little girls in the crowd, like the game was ending and you could hear them all screaming the countdown from 10, 9, 8, 7. You know, that was like cute and great and just a, you know, a wonderful night of, you know, women's hockey. And, you know, I don't know about you guys, when the women's hockey players were holding out for a league, I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I didn't envision this, certainly not this quickly, where you could bring a team from Montreal and Toronto to Vancouver, get a sold out crowd and people like clamoring. Like there's a demand for this. It's wonderful to see.
Here there's attendance woes in some of the American markets right now.
Yeah.
It's not all sunshine and roses, but you know, they're close. They're circling around the right formula and how to make it all work. I don't think that would be, if they did get one, that's not the home arena. Like they can't ask for those vibes aren't going to continue for 17 home games, right? So
yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like, if you look at what they've done in Toronto, Montreal, like they're not playing in NHL rinks every night, but they do it like from time to time and they'll play like Toronto, Montreal and play at the Bell Center and they get huge crowds out for that. So I think there's a world where you can make it like a one-off event if you're playing in a smaller arena. I don't know what the answer would be in Vancouver if you know, the Coliseum's a little smaller and you can maybe retrofit it to make it feel smaller than than the 16,000 seats that are there. Do you go out to Langley? There's issues with doing that. Do you go out to UBC? That's out of the way as well. I wish there was a rink like that more in the middle of the lower mainland rather than so far east or so far west. But of course, geography, I think, is the only thing standing in the way of Vancouver getting a team at this point, just because they're so far out of the way and there's a lot of travel constraints there.
Yeah, we know this is a great event town. For those who think that, I don't dispute that the PWHL could work here in Vancouver, but you're right, to finance the travel and be playing out here routinely is a difference in the business model that they have right now.
I think they do it the way the AHL kind of did it, is like a group of teams would be planted at the same time.
I think that would have to be the case. And I don't know. As UBC's too far, like there's a lot of people who live in and around UBC, right? Like Langley, I understand. Langley, you're talking about single dwelling homes in the suburbs away from the population centers, but do you think UBC's too far?
Well, without rapid transit out there too, I'd be a little bit worried about it. The facilities just fine. Both of the facilities in a vacuum are fine. It's just about how do you maximize it?
All the more reason to get the train out to UBC, but I'm going to spare you both a transportation rant. I've done enough of those over the years, Rob, as you well know. So we'll just end it there. Say thank you very much. Best of 2025 to you, Chelsea, and everyone over at the Daily Hive. We'll catch up next week.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys.